You feel drained, not just tired, but empty, like something inside you has been slowly fading away. No matter how much you sleep, no matter how much you try to distract yourself, there's a heaviness that lingers. You wake up, go through your day, do what's expected of you, but you don't feel alive. This isn't because you're weak. You haven't lost your fire. It's just being suffocated. Piece by piece, something is draining you. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening. The world is full of silent thieves, things that steal your energy, consume your peace, and leave you wondering why you feel so disconnected from yourself. But here's the truth. You are not powerless. You don't have to live exhausted, overwhelmed, or numb. You can reclaim your strength, your soul, your fire. Stoicism teaches that life does not drain you, your response to it does. Today we expose 8 things that are secretly draining your soul, and, more importantly, how to take back everything they've stolen. If you're tired of feeling like a shadow of yourself, if you're ready to reclaim your energy and rebuild your inner power, this is for you. Stay until the end and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic, because the world needs more people who refuse to be defeated. Now let's begin. Number 1, chasing validation, the trap you'll never escape. Have you ever done something not because you wanted to, but because you were afraid of what others might think? Have you ever forced a laugh at an unfunny joke just to avoid being labeled too serious? Or agreed to help someone even when you knew they were taking advantage of you, simply because you didn't want to disappoint them? Congratulations! You've entered the never-ending game of chasing validation, a race with no finish line, a prison without walls. Let me tell you a story. James was raised to be the good guy, the reliable one, the one who always said yes, the one who never let anyone down. He shaped his life around meeting expectations, his family's, his bosses, his friends. He was always available, always accommodating, always putting others first. And then one day he woke up and realized he had no idea who he really was. James had spent years living for approval, bending over backward to please people who barely noticed. He had built his identity on being what others wanted him to be, but the moment he couldn't meet their expectations, he was disposable. The gratitude, the validation, the approval, it was temporary. The demands, endless. Marcus Aurelius once said, "We love ourselves more than anyone else, but we care more about their opinions than our own." Think about that. You are the only one living your life, yet you let others dictate how you live it. The more you seek validation, the more you become a prisoner of expectations that aren't even yours. You wear things you don't like, do things you don't enjoy, laugh with people you don't respect, all to maintain an image that, ironically, no one is paying that much attention to. And here's the harsh truth. No matter what you do, you will never please everyone. Think about the last time you tried to impress someone. You spent hours overanalyzing what to say, what to wear, how to act, afraid of being judged. But here's the brutal reality. They didn't think about you nearly as much as you thought they did. Maybe they acknowledged your effort for a moment. Maybe they even admired it. But minutes later, they were back to thinking about themselves. So how do you reclaim your energy? Stop waiting for validation from people who don't matter. You don't need their applause to keep moving. You don't need their approval to live your life. And most importantly, you don't need them to confirm your worth, because it was never theirs to give in the first place. Number 2, social media, the marketplace of insecurity. If you ever wake up feeling okay about yourself, just spend 5 minutes on social media. That should be enough to make you feel like an absolute failure. You scroll, and there it is. Some guy younger than you just bought a Lamborghini. Some influencer just got engaged on a private beach in Greece. Some 22-year-old entrepreneur is flexing his 7-figure business while you're still trying to figure out what to eat for dinner. Suddenly your life, your real, complex, messy, and human life, feels embarrassingly inadequate. Welcome to the great illusion of social media, where everyone is richer, happier, more successful, and living a better life than you. Or at least that's what they want you to think. And you? You sit there trapped in a comparison game you never signed up for, questioning every decision you've ever made. But let's get something straight. You are comparing your raw, unfiltered reality to someone else's highlight reel. You see the vacation, not the credit card debt. You see the promotion, not the anxiety attacks. You see the happy couple, not the nights of silent resentment. You are measuring your self-worth against a carefully curated fiction, and yet it works. The more you compare, the worse you feel. The worse you feel, the more you scroll. The more you scroll, the deeper you sink into the black hole of self-doubt. And that's exactly what they want. Every platform, every algorithm, every influencer thrives on keeping you hooked, envious, and insecure. Because when you feel like you're lacking, you keep coming back for more. Comparison is the fastest way to destroy your motivation. It doesn't inspire you, it paralyzes you. You start questioning your own path, your own pace, your own achievements. Instead of building your life, you waste time resenting someone else's. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about that. If your mood, your motivation, your sense of self-worth are controlled by strangers on the internet, you are not free. You are a prisoner of comparison. So how do you break free? Simple. Look at your own damn path. It doesn't matter how fast they're going. It doesn't even matter where they're going. You are not running their race. Your journey, your timeline, your progress, they belong to you. The only person you should ever compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. So the next time social media tries to convince you that you're falling behind, remind yourself, you are exactly where you need to be, and no Instagram post, no billionaire flex, no influencer fantasy should have the power to make you forget that. Number 3, the madness of controlling the uncontrollable. How much of your life have you wasted worrying about things you have no power over? How many nights have you spent replaying the past like you could somehow rewrite it? How many mornings have you woken up dreading the future, as if obsessing over it would change the outcome? How much of your energy has been drained trying to control other people, their thoughts, their actions, their feelings, only to realize again and again that you never had control in the first place? Let's be brutally honest. You are not the director of this universe. You don't control the past, you don't control the future, and you sure as hell don't control other people. Yet you act like you do, like if you just think hard enough, stress long enough, suffer intensely enough, then somehow reality will bend to your will. It won't. And the only thing you're achieving? Exhaustion, frustration, madness. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, screaming at the waves to stop. That's you, trying to control things beyond your reach. The ocean doesn't care about your demands. The tide will rise, the storms will come, and your shouting won't change a damn thing. But you know what you can control? Your boat. You can learn to sail. You can decide whether to fight the current or flow with it. You can focus on what's in your hands instead of wasting your breath on what isn't. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. He ruled an empire, yet he understood that his real power lay not in controlling the world, but in controlling himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So let's make this simple. You don't control the past, so stop reliving it. Take the lesson, leave the rest. You don't control the future, so stop fearing it. Prepare, but don't obsess. You don't control how others treat you, so stop depending on their approval. Respect yourself enough to stop giving a damn about people who don't respect you. The only thing you own in this life is your actions, your mindset, your choices. That is where your energy should go. Not into regret, not into worry, not into the exhausting, soul-draining illusion that if you just stress hard enough, life will finally obey you. It won't. But when you focus on what is yours to control, you stop being a victim of life and start being the master of your own destiny. So, take your power back, let go of what isn't yours, and watch how light, how free, how unstoppable you become. Number 4, the people who will never be happy because they live everywhere but here. Some people will never be happy, not because life has been unfair to them, Not because they lack opportunities, but because they refuse to live in the only moment that actually exists, the present. They are prisoners of the past, chained to memories, regrets, and mistakes long gone. Or they are slaves to the future, obsessing over what might happen, fearing what could go wrong, convinced that happiness is always just one more achievement away. Either way, they are never here, never now, never truly living. Think of someone you know who can't let go of the past. Maybe it's a friend who still talks about their ex like the breakup happened yesterday, even though it's been years. Maybe it's a relative who never stops blaming a bad decision for why their life isn't where they want it to be. Maybe it's you, replaying old failures, reliving old pain, clinging to old identities, as if thinking about them enough will somehow change what already happened. But here's the truth. The past is a graveyard. You can visit, but if you live there, you are the one who is dead. Nothing you do today will rewrite yesterday. No amount of guilt, regret, or suffering will undo the choices you've made. And yet, people waste their entire lives looking backwards, like a driver staring in the rearview mirror until they crash. Then there are the time travelers, the ones who don't live in the past, but who live for a future that never arrives. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll feel fulfilled when I meet the right person. I'll finally enjoy life when I have enough money. They push happiness just out of reach, chasing a finish line that moves further every time they get closer. But here's the irony. By the time the future they once longed for arrives, they won't even notice it, because they'll already be chasing the next one. Seneca once said, "We suffer not from reality, but from our memories and our imagination." The pain isn't in what happened, it's in our refusal to let it go. The anxiety isn't in what will happen, it's in our addiction to overthinking. So what's the solution? Look down, right now. Where are your feet? That is the only place life is happening, not in the past, not in the future. Right here, right now. If you don't learn to be present, you will spend your entire life waiting to live, until it's too late. Let go of the past. Stop obsessing over the future. Happiness isn't coming, it's already here. You just have to stop running long enough to see it. Number 5, the curse of the oracle, the fear of what hasn't happened yet. There once was a man who lived in the shadow of a prophecy. As a child, the village oracle whispered to his parents, "One day he will face great suffering." That was all. No details, no dates, no explanation. But from that moment, fear wrapped around his life like a serpent. He spent his youth avoiding danger, refusing to climb trees like the other children, terrified of a fall. He never rode horses, fearing an accident. He never traveled beyond his village, convinced that misfortune awaited him the moment he stepped outside. The older he grew, the more he hesitated. He turned down love, fearing heartbreak. He refused opportunities, fearing failure. Every decision he made was not a step towards something, but an escape from what might happen. And so, his life became smaller and smaller, reduced to a series of precautions, a cage he built with his own hands. He was so afraid of suffering that he never truly lived. One day when he was old and frail, the oracle returned. He asked her, "Tell me, when will my great suffering come?" The oracle looked at him, sadness in her eyes, and said, "It already has. Your greatest suffering was the life you never lived." This is the curse of fearing the future. You waste your days obsessing over what could go wrong, over every possible failure, heartbreak, or disaster. You live trapped in an endless game of what-ifs. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if they leave me? What if I make the wrong choice? But here's the brutal truth. The future doesn't exist. Not yet. Not in the way you think. It is only a collection of possibilities, of shadows and guesses. And no matter how much you worry, no matter how much you prepare, you will never have control over it. What you do have control over? This moment. Right now. The steps you take today. The actions that shape your destiny, not the illusions that haunt your mind. Stoicism teaches us to embrace uncertainty, not fear it. The world is unpredictable. Pain is inevitable. But so is joy, so is discovery, so is strength. To fear the future is to fear life itself. So what will you do? Live in fear of a prophecy that may never come true, or walk forward knowing that whatever comes, you will be strong enough to face it? The choice is yours, and it always has been. Number 6, the weight of a toxic love and the courage to let go. Lynn thought she had found love. When she met John, he was everything she thought she wanted. Charming, confident, the kind of man who knew exactly what to say to make her feel special. At first, it was intoxicating. He called her beautiful. He made her laugh. He promised her a future. But slowly, the cracks began to show. It started small, backhanded compliments that made her second-guess herself. "You're pretty, but you'd look even better if you lost a little weight." Then came the subtle control. "Why do you need to go out with your friends so much? Don't you love me?" And before she knew it, she was walking on eggshells, constantly trying to keep the peace, constantly justifying his behavior. She told herself it wasn't that bad, because he loved her, right? Because every relationship has problems, right? But deep down, she knew the truth. This wasn't love. It was a slow erosion of who she was. The nights spent crying, the endless apologies she made for him, the way her world had shrunk to revolve around his moods, his needs, his insecurities. This was not the life she wanted, but the scariest part wasn't the toxicity of the relationship. It was the fear of leaving. Because what if she never found someone else? What if she was overreacting? What if, after everything, this was the best she would ever get? That's the lie toxic relationships make you believe. That you are too weak to leave, that you are lucky to even be here. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Avoid those who harm your soul." But the truth is, most people don't recognize the harm until it has already drained them. Toxic people don't destroy you all at once. They do it slowly, bit by bit, until you no longer recognize yourself. Lynn finally left. It wasn't easy, it wasn't glamorous. But one day after another argument that left her feeling empty and alone, she asked herself, if I met someone who treated me exactly like this, but I wasn't in love with them, would I tolerate it? And she knew the answer. So she walked away. And for the first time in years, she felt light. Because when you finally let go of something that has been draining you, you realize just how heavy it was to carry. Toxic people are not your responsibility. You do not owe them your love, your time, your forgiveness, or your presence. Your only responsibility is to protect your own soul. If someone is pulling you down, let them go, because you cannot rise while you are chained to those who were never meant to fly with you. Number 7, the poison of hatred and the power of forgiveness. There is a saying in Christianity, but if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. Matthew 6:15. Forgiveness is not just a virtue, it is a necessity. Not because the person who hurt you deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Now I know what you're thinking. How can I forgive them? They don't deserve it. They lied. They betrayed. They broke me. But here's the truth. Holding on to hatred is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Think of Jack. Jack was once deeply in love, but one day he found out that his best friend and his girlfriend, the two people he trusted the most, had betrayed him. It wasn't just the cheating that hurt, it was the years of friendship, trust, and loyalty thrown away like they meant nothing. Jack was consumed with rage. He imagined revenge. He wanted them to suffer like he suffered. He wanted them to feel his pain. But months passed, and while they moved on, he remained trapped. He couldn't sleep without thinking about it. He couldn't go a day without feeling the burn of betrayal in his chest. His hatred didn't destroy them, it destroyed him. Then one day, he read another verse. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, Ephesians 4:26. He realized something painful but liberating. He was the one keeping himself in suffering, because that's the truth of resentment. The people who hurt you, they aren't the ones carrying the weight of your anger. You are. They aren't lying awake at night thinking about you. You are. And every second you spend in hatred is another second you give them power over you. So men made a choice, not to forget, not to excuse, but to let go, not for them, but for himself. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It is saying, I refuse to let your actions define my life. I refuse to let my heart be filled with hatred because of you. If you believe in justice, then trust that it is not your burden to carry. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Romans 12:19. Your only job is to free yourself, because forgiveness does not change the past, but it changes your future. And when you finally release the hatred, you will understand you were never doing it for them, you were doing it for you. Number 8, the tragedy of abandoning yourself. You show up for everyone. When they call, you answer. When they need help, you're there. You're the shoulder to cry on, the dependable one, the one who always says yes. But when was the last time you showed up for yourself? When was the last time you checked in on your own well-being, the way you check in on others? When was the last time you listened to your own exhaustion, acknowledged your own pain, or gave yourself the care you so freely give to everyone else? You give, and give until there's nothing left. And yet the world doesn't notice when you're running on empty. People keep asking, keep expecting, keep taking, because you've trained them to believe you will always be there. And so without realizing it, you become a ghost in your own life. There was once a woman who spent her entire life taking care of others. She raised her siblings when no one else would. She sacrificed her own dreams to support her family. She stayed up late, worked overtime, always put herself last. People admired her. They called her selfless. But then one day she got sick, and suddenly the world she had carried for so long didn't stop for her. The people she had always taken care of didn't know how to take care of her. They had never needed to. She had never asked. She realized too late that she had given so much of herself away that there was nothing left for herself. This is what happens when you abandon yourself. You think self-sacrifice is noble, that putting yourself last makes you a good person, that saying yes when you're exhausted means you care. But the truth? You can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't replenish your energy, if you don't prioritize your own well-being, you won't have anything left to give. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People are frugal in guarding their money, but waste their time." This is the one thing it is right to be greedy about. Your time. If your best friend was exhausted, would you tell them to keep pushing? If someone you loved was breaking under the weight of expectations, would you tell them to just keep giving? No? Then why do you do it to yourself? The solution? Reclaim your time. Reclaim your space. Reclaim yourself. Learn to say no without guilt. Learn to step away without apology. Learn that you deserve as much love, care, and energy as you give to others. Because if you abandon yourself long enough, one day you'll wake up and realize you are the only person who never showed up for you. Final thoughts. Take back what's yours. You were never weak. You were never broken. You were just drained by things that never deserved your energy in the first place, by the endless noise of the world, by the expectations of others, by the distractions designed to keep you lost. But now you see it, now you know, and knowing is power. Stoicism teaches us this: you don't need to control the world. You don't need to fix every problem, silence every critic, or make life bend to your will. You only need to control yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your reactions. So what will you do now? Will you let the world keep taking from you? Or will you reclaim your energy, your focus, your strength? If you recognize what's been draining you, comment below. I reclaim my power. And if this message resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic. Because the world doesn't need more people who feel powerless. It needs more people who refuse to stay down. Now go, take back what's yours.